I told myself we were out for air and sugar, not a test. Lantern Bend was the same, or it tried to be. Paper ghosts on fishing line over porches. Plastic skeletons zip-tied to railings. Dogs in sweaters, teenagers in capes that dragged on the concrete like they were sweeping the street. The maples in our area had gone all at once the week before. Brown leaves skated over gutters and whispered in clumps against tires. The night felt clear enough to ring if you tapped it. Emma held my hand and swung her orange plastic pumpkin by the wire handle. She wore a butterfly dress over 2 layers of leggings. Lauren pinned the wings with little safety clips so the straps wouldn't slide. Emma stomped on a leaf to hear it crack. She pointed at a 10-foot spider someone had anchored to a stump with tent stakes. She asked if real spiders could be that big. Lauren told her probably not, then gave me the little look that meant we were going to keep things light tonight without lying. The first 3 houses were ordinary. A bowl on a chair with a sign that said "Take one, please." A door that opened fast. A woman who said she loved Emma's wings. A man who recognized me from the grocery store and asked if the podcast was still going. I said yes and tried not to say more. Halloween is about other people's stories. You show up. You let them be bigger than you for a while. You walk with your family and try to hold the shape of it in your head. The town helps. We turned onto Hartley. The houses sat closer together and the porches were shallow. The first honor stand was 2 houses in. I noticed because it wasn't there last year. Someone had made it from scrap plywood and a table saw. The legs were neat. The top had a lip so wind wouldn't take anything. A cheap black bowl sat in the center with a paper sign taped on crooked. You can trade 1 candy for a wish that lasts until sunrise. Take only what you trade. Keep only what you can carry. Return what is not yours before midnight. The handwriting looked like a kid's, the careful kind with letters a little too far apart. The bowl was full of random junk. Lollipops with witches on the wrappers. Hard caramels, a handful of gumdrops that stuck together in a clump. The sign had a little grease stain at the bottom like someone had held it with pizza fingers. Emma sounded it out. She tracked each word with her finger. When she finished, she looked at us like she'd been invited to something and was waiting for permission to be excited. Lauren leaned down and pulled Emma's knit cap straight. She asked what Emma thought wishes weighed. Emma said not much. Lauren told her most wishes weigh more than people think, then smiled so it didn't land heavy. I said we could keep moving. It was a cheap bowl and the wind had teeth. You get cold and you start making bad bargains. Emma shook her head. She set her pumpkin on the rail and fished out a fun-sized caramel from her stash so she could hold one in each hand and decide. She picked the one from the bowl. It had a tiny ghost on the wrapper. She held it close to her mouth like she was telling a secret to a toy and whispered. Her voice got small enough that I couldn't pick up the words. She put the caramel back in the bowl. The plastic clicked. Nothing changed. Then the porch light above us steadied 1 notch. I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't been watching the filament strobe. The light warmed and stayed even. Lauren stepped on the top step and rocked it with her heel without thinking. It had always moved like a loose tooth. It didn't move now. She gave me the look that means we've crossed from mood to detail. I nodded and told myself the stand was a neighborhood game. The next house had a splitter under the top step. Somebody fixed it today. The bowl just made a neat way to notice.
What did you wish for?
Emma held her hand out to keep her balance and hopped down the steps.
For old porch steps to feel safe.
That's a good wish.
It's for everyone, not just us. Morgan broke her knee last year. Her dad said it made a sound like popcorn.
Lauren squeezed my elbow. Emma skipped to the next yard. She kept glancing over her shoulder at the bowl like it might call her back. The wind moved a new strip of leaves down the sidewalk, then the breeze went still again like a held breath. I told myself wind did that sometimes when it was cold and the houses made small canyons. At the next place, the step didn't rock. I still told myself it had probably been fixed. The third place had a slab that always listed to one side. It didn't. Lauren said nothing and counted houses under her breath like she was checking a list. Emma told a man in a clown nose thank you without being prompted. She told a dog she liked his bee costume. She told another kid that her wings weren't for flying because her dad didn't like ladders. I said hey now and got a grin for it. 2 blocks later we saw another honor stand. Same bowl, same sign, same handwriting. A porch cat sat on the rail beside it and blinked slow at us with each eye in turn like a lighthouse. You could tell which houses were in on the game. Their orange bulbs were fixed. Their light didn't flutter. The houses that weren't in looked a shade dimmer, like they weren't breathing as deep. Emma didn't ask. She put her pumpkin down and traded a Tootsie Roll from our bag for a wrapped blue lollipop from the bowl. She whispered into the lollipop the way kids whisper into cups when they want to hear their voice change. She put it back. The bowl clicked. The cat's ears tipped toward the sound and then laid back like it had heard a drawer shut in another room. The sky had that look it gets right before the little kids go home. Not darker, just thinner. You could see through it to where the cold is waiting. We crossed the street. Emma tested the top step out of habit and grinned because it held. A woman opened the door and startled like she'd been standing too close to a mirror. She recovered fast and told Emma she loved the wings. She looked past me for a second like she'd been expecting someone taller and older to be with us. She handed Emma 2 pieces and said we could take a third because it was early and they'd overbought. Emma thanked her and tried to hand one back for the kid behind her. The woman said that was sweet and her face moved in a way that made Lauren study her for a second. The bowl on the rail at the end of the yard whispered. I didn't hear words. I heard the sound paper makes when you fold it slow and careful.
What did you wish this time?
For the crosswalk guy to lift his sign nice. Sometimes he bounces it and it makes my tummy feel weird.
Lauren laughed.
I like that one a lot.
Do wishes get tired if you make them work too hard?
Maybe. That's why we don't ask too much.
I won't,
she said, and you could hear the effort it took to say it. Hartley fed into the church street. The cemetery sits back from the road behind a low wall and 2 maples that grew together like a wishbone. People were still out. Kids in dinosaur hoodies, kids with light-up shoes that popped each step like bubble wrap. Teens walking in loose packs, quiet for once. The church had one of those felt signs with white letters stuck into it with little teeth. The letters leaned a little to the right from wind. I read the week's verse without meaning to. The words slid out of my head as soon as I finished them. Halfway down the street, we saw a stand on the church lawn. The bowl sat on a table they use for potlucks. The sign had a new last line. Please leave 1 candy on the grave with the silver lamb. The letters were still careful. The shape of them was the same. The spacing was wrong, like someone had traced the words and guessed at the gaps. Emma read the line out loud and looked at the cemetery with her mouth set. Lauren set her hand barely on my arm, and we both stopped walking. The streetlights hummed. A moth the size of a casino chip drifted in front of one and threw a shadow that looked like an eye. You don't have to, I said. Emma nodded.
I know. I think I want to.
Let's talk first. We don't give things names. We don't say please to bowls.
Emma nodded again. She breathed through her nose in a way I recognized from the doctor's office. She took my hand. We went through the gate with the squeaky hinge. We found the silver lamb fast because the lamb reflected the streetlight like a little scale model of the moon. It sat on a small headstone with a first name and a date so short it made my stomach tighten. Someone had left a toy truck there years ago. It had filled with rain and rusted in a shape that looked like someone had dropped a word and it landed wrong. Emma set a peppermint on the stone and petted the lamb with her knuckles like it was a cat she didn't want to startle. She whispered something I couldn't hear. On the way back to the sidewalk, the bowl clicked twice, and then once like it was counting. The orange bulbs on the church porch blinked in unison and stayed on. The wind moved through the maples in a way that sounded like someone turning a page. I told myself leaves always did that when they were dry and looking to be somewhere else. We kept walking. The night leaned toward the hour when people with strollers turned for home. The bigger kids started to dominate the sidewalks. They had that way of taking space by accident. Emma didn't mind. She liked walking between people. She waved at a girl dressed like a bat and got a reluctant wave back. At the next stand, the sign had a new line again. If you wish for no accidents, then you must carry it. Lauren read it and then read it again, slower. She rubbed her palm over her jeans like she was smoothing fabric and the fabric was her nerves. She picked a gumdrop out of our bag, put it in the bowl, and leaned down very close to the ridge in the bottom like she was dropping a penny into a well. She spoke so the sound stayed inside the plastic. The bowl clicked. The streetlight above us ticked. A car at the corner slowed without quite stopping, then stopped all the way. The driver waved a couple across with both hands. Lauren watched until he drove away. She breathed once, deep.
We're good. I'll carry it.
What does that mean?
It means I'll pay attention for everyone who doesn't. I'll keep count.
That should have felt like the end of a game. It didn't. It felt like the first real rule after the tutorial. We kept seeing the bowls, some sat alone on stands, some appeared on porch rails while we were still halfway down the block. Every sign matched the first. Every extra rule was written in the same careful hand. The new lines showed up in the same places on the paper, like they had grown into the sign instead of being added. Emma started to test each wish to see how far it reached. She walked up a broken concrete path and swung her foot at a crack. It didn't crumble. She touched a loose fence picket and it didn't flex. She tapped a porch post where the paint used to stick to your finger and nothing came away. She smiled like she felt taller. She held Lauren's wish like a child holds a heavier grocery bag when you let them. I kept a running tally in my head. Steps, crossings, dogs that wanted to jump but didn't, bikes with no lights that should have cut too close but swung wide in time. It felt like luck on rails. The rails felt close to our feet. The rails kept bending to meet us. We reached the park. The playground sat empty. The mulch had frozen into a thin crust that cracked when I stepped off the sidewalk to read a sign on the fence about winterizing the splash pad. A bowl sat on the low wall by the swings. The sign had another new line. If you take more than you need, then you must give it back. People already know that.
People forget.
Do wishes forget?
Not the good ones.
A boy ran past us with a cape flapping behind him. He was small. He made the sound kids make when candy is near. His mom walked fast with her eyes on her phone and the bottom of her coat dragging on the ground. She cut close to the swings. The boy tripped. He didn't fall. He pinwheeled and straightened like he'd practiced on a balance beam. He looked around for witnesses and laughed. Emma nodded like she had just marked a box on a list. She took a single chocolate from her bag and put it in the bowl. She whispered again. She put the candy back and looked at me to see if I noticed anything change. I didn't for once, and I was glad. She had asked for something so light I couldn't track it. You want your kid to ask for light things. You want the world to hear them and say yes. We turned onto Ash. The wind lifted once and stayed up like it was helping someone carry something. More stands, more bowls. The new lines on the paper grew faster than my nerves could keep up. I started to feel like each one had been waiting for us, like a person who writes an email in drafts and waits to hit send until you ask the question they want to answer. If you hear a name you love, then do not answer it. If you see yourself at the end of the block, then hold a candy in your mouth and keep walking. If your wish begins to ask for favors, then remember you are not its parent. That's cute, I said, and heard the edge in my voice.
Don't start.
I stopped. I closed my eyes for a second. The night made the small hiss of quiet places. A child laughed down the block. A gate latch clicked. Somewhere a little far away, a car alarm chirped twice and went back to sleep. I opened my eyes and felt like I had set a heavy thing down that didn't want to be set down. Emma tugged my sleeve.
Can I do one more?
One more.
Emma chose a single gumdrop. She held it by the sugar crust like it was a crystal she didn't want to melt. She bent half over the bowl and let her voice slip into it. The bowl clicked. The porch light 2 houses down blinked twice and stayed on. A girl in a vampire dress stepped onto that porch. She stopped. She looked at the top step like she was about to run and decided to walk. What did you wish? Emma smiled.
For the house with the blue shutters to not smell like smoke. It does in the morning when the heater turns on.
Lauren looked at me again. We didn't say anything. Sometimes the town talks to itself. Sometimes it uses kids to do it. We had enough candy. We looped toward the car. The sidewalks thinned. Strollers vanished. Teenagers grew louder and looser in their movements. I heard the occasional schoolyard shout that wasn't angry, just big. We passed a bowl on a sawhorse that sat in a spot where a porch would be if someone had built the house closer to the street. The sign had a new line again. If you wish to end a thing, then you must name it. We kept walking. The block felt bent, like the last houses were leaning toward us. Emma's wings caught a gust and lifted at the tips, and she laughed at the feeling. Lauren asked if her fingers were cold and tucked the cap again and put her glove against Emma's cheek, then against mine. In the corner of my eye, the sawhorse bowl shifted on its legs like someone had put a knee against it, and pushed without meaning to.
Don't look back.
Lauren said. We didn't. We reached the car at the municipal lot and buckled in. Town slid away in the rear view, porch lights thinning to black. The The last streetlight sat at the county line like a nailhead. Past that, trees took over. I turned onto the gravel lane. Needles whispered along the fenders. The cabin's porch light showed through the pines, small and steady. There was a bowl on our porch rail. The sign was the same. The extra lines were gone. The paper looked new and the tape looked wet. The bowl held a few things that didn't look like candy. A couple of brass buttons. A key that had broken at the shoulder. A blue ribbon tied in a knot. 3 gumdrops stuck together. The gumdrops looked fresh. Emma took a step toward the bowl. Lauren set her hand out without touching her, and Emma stopped. I tried to think of who would have done this as a joke. Out here we have no neighbors that could put a bowl on someone else's porch. The wind pulled a few leaves across the porch floorboards and then stopped moving altogether.
Okay.
She raised her eyebrows at me, and the expression meant we were going to pick a rule and hold it.
It offered trades. We gave trades. It says return what isn't yours before midnight. We didn't take anything we aren't willing to give back.
Emma looked down at the pumpkin. She shook it a little and listened to the weight. She sounded older for a second when she asked how you return a wish.
You say it out loud. You say, I don't need this one to stay. It can go back to the bowl.
Emma chewed on her lip. She set her pumpkin on the boards and crouched beside it. She held one of the gumdrops between finger and thumb. She looked up at us.
I can do it. I made the first one.
Lauren nodded. I crouched too. I told myself to breathe. The porch wood smelled faintly like summer because it had banked heat in it from the day. The smell made me want to put my face against it and close my eyes like a kid at nap time. Emma took the gumdrop to the bowl. She held it over the black plastic and made her voice small. She returned the wish about steps. The bowl clicked. She returned the crosswalk wish on behalf of the man with the sign. The bowl clicked. She returned the smell in the heater. The bowl clicked. She looked up at Lauren.
You don't have to give yours back. I think you should keep it. Yours is about people not getting hurt.
Lauren's face did that move it does when she wants to cry but won't. Not in front of Emma and not on a porch. She nodded.
I'm going to keep it, but I'm going to pay for it. The bowl wants one more trade, and it wants it from a kid. That's how these games work.
Emma stood up straighter.
I can do that. This is easy.
Lauren shook her head.
It's not easy. It's a choice. There's a difference.
Emma looked at the bowl. She looked at the dark like it was also a person she needed to consider. She held the gumdrop up like a tiny lantern.
I'll trade one.
The bowl clicked as if it had been waiting. The porch light hummed. The streetlights out at the county road blinked twice. The hum stayed even. The wind didn't come back. The leaves went still. The quiet felt like a wall we could lean against and not fall through.
Okay, that's ours now. Until sunrise.
Can we go inside?
Her voice sounded small, but not scared. It sounded like she'd finished something, and now she wanted to be somewhere soft. We went in. I locked the door. The lock felt thin. That is the word that came to mind. Thin. I set Emma's pumpkin on the table while she took off her wings. She asked if she could put the bowl on the counter. Lauren said no. The bowl can stay outside where bowls live. Emma made a face and then nodded because she understood that rule. I turned off the porch light. I stood there for a second with my hand on the switch and listened. The night had that sound it gets when you've made a noise and are waiting to hear if anyone answers. The bowl clicked once. I turned away. We did the rituals. Water, teeth, sorting candy on the kitchen table into keep, share, and donate while Emma explained the ethics of each choice. She had a logic that involved how hard a wrapper is to open and which friends do better with peanut butter. We talked about school. We talked about the bug jar she took to show and tell that week and how the teacher made 2 kids sit on either side of it to keep it from falling. Lauren brushed hair out of Emma's eyes. We kept it all easy. At 9, we heard a boy crying outside. The sound came in the front window crisp like a radio voice. He wasn't wailing. He was doing the child version of an adult trying to keep it together. I looked at Lauren, and she looked at me, and neither of us wanted to move. Emma slid off her chair.
That sounds like the dinosaur kid.
You're right, I said, because of course she was. The list had been running in her head too. We opened the door. The bowl on our rail sat where we'd left it. Down at the fence by the county road, a bowl sat on the corner post. The sign was fresh. A woman I didn't know stood by her idling car at our mailbox with her son. He wore a green dinosaur hoodie and held the string of his empty plastic bucket in both hands like a steering wheel. He told her he'd forgotten to trade back. He said it over and over. I heard the word midnight, and then I didn't want to hear the rest. Lauren stepped out and spoke with the woman. She kept her voice calm and low. She does that even when the animal part of her is looking for a door. The woman held her son's shoulder the way people hold a dog that wants to run into traffic. Lauren told her they could still return wishes. The woman shook her head like she was trying to snap out of a dream. She said they'd already gone home, and he'd already changed into pajamas, and they'd already turned off their porch light. The sign by the fence didn't care. The sign didn't use words like already. Emma stood beside me with her hand in mine. Her fingers were cool. She watched the boy watch the bowl. She whispered into my sleeve that he looked tired in the bones. I asked what that meant. She said bones can get tired too. I told her I believed her. The boy stared at the new bowl by the road. He took a step and stopped. His mother said his name like a song with only one note. He didn't answer. Emma squeezed my fingers.
We can share.
We will. Right now we wait. Down by the fence, the car's dome light blinked once. It didn't blink twice. The bowl clicked in a rhythm that made my mouth go dry. The boy's mother shook his shoulder. He stayed where he was. He made that small humming sound kids make when they've put themselves to sleep standing up. Lauren told the woman to lift him. The woman tried. He didn't move. Lauren put her hands out like she was asking to hold a stranger's baby. The woman let her. Lauren lifted the boy and turned him gently so he faced her instead of the bowl. She asked him a question I couldn't hear. He blinked once, slow, like a cat in a sunbeam. Emma let go of my hand. She took one step toward the edge of our porch.
I can trade for him.
You already did, I said, too fast. She didn't argue. She put both hands on the rail and looked at the bowl like it was a fish she wanted to feed. She whispered something I couldn't hear, and I think that was the point. The bowl clicked once, then stopped. By the fence, the new bowl went quiet for a beat, like a person holding breath to keep from crying. The boy blinked again and turned his head toward his mother. She set him down and he leaned into her leg like he'd suddenly remembered how to stand. Lauren walked back to us. She looked like she was holding her breath low in her ribs. She stood just inside the door and wrapped her arms around herself and then unwrapped them because that would make Emma think she was scared. She put her hand on Emma's head.
Thank you. We're going to be polite tenants of tonight, and then we're going to sleep.
We watched the road for a while. We watched a couple of cars drift past slow, then the dark take the lane back. We watched the clock without trying to. At 11:40, the wind returned in a small way and pushed a line of leaves along the drive that made a sound like paper money. At 11:51, the bowl clicked twice, and then once, like it was checking a list. At 11:59, Lauren took the last gumdrop Emma had traded. She held it between finger and thumb, then held it out to Emma.
You finish it. We keep my wish. We pay for it as a family.
Emma took the gumdrop. She looked like it had gotten heavier. She set it in the bowl and said please, like she was talking to a person at a counter who had the power to make her day easy or not. The bowl clicked. Down at the county line, a pair of headlights crested the hill, flashed across the trees twice, then the dark stayed. Our porch light was already off, so it didn't matter. The woods exhaled, the air warmed by a breath you couldn't measure. We went inside. I closed the door and stood with my hand on it. My palm felt each grain of wood. The house felt like a small boat you trust because you know how it moves. Emma brushed her teeth with the pink toothpaste she hates and told the mirror she didn't want mint because mint tastes like the dentist. She climbed into bed and pulled the quilt up to her chin and asked if wishes sleep. I said yes when they can. She said we should let them. Lauren sat on the bed and rubbed Emma's arm and told her she was brave without making it a contest that would make her try to be brave again. She kissed her forehead and left her door open, exactly as much as she likes. We went back to the kitchen and cleaned wrappers off the table just to give our hands something to do. The clock turned to 12 on the stove. On the porch, the bowl sat where we'd left it, I don't know if it was empty before. I know it was empty now. The sign was gone. A strip of tape clung to the rail. The wind didn't move it. It sat like a thin tongue that had forgotten what the rest of the mouth felt like. I turned off the kitchen light. The room held the dark the way a hand holds a stone. Lauren put her hand on my back. We stood there together. We listened for the sound the woods make when they turn over in their sleep. We heard it. It was small. It was enough. Morning came quiet. The bowl was gone from the rail, just a faint circle of dust where it had sat. Emma slept late and then shuffled into the kitchen with her hair pointed in 3 directions and asked for pancakes like she does after big nights. We ate at the table with the sun cutting across the wood. The leaves along the drive had started to break down, and the smell of them came through the screen like a reminder that the season keeps moving whether we watch or not. Emma told us her wings made a noise when she took them off. She asked if that meant they were real for a little while. Lauren told her probably not, then looked at me, and we both smiled. On the walk to the car, I checked the rail. No tape, no bowl, just that pale circle. I wiped it with my sleeve and felt silly. I tried the top step out of habit. It didn't rock. It might never rock again. That felt like a promise we could keep without help. We drove into town. The streetlights looked ordinary. The churchyard sat quiet. Porches looked a little scuffed, like someone had dragged a suitcase over each one. When we cut across the square, the steps still held firm under my feet. The church sign had lost 3 letters and no one had noticed yet. A peppermint lay on the grave with the silver lamb. At the stop sign, Emma asked if we'd made the town better. Lauren said we'd made it lighter for a night. Emma said that counts. She looked out the window and waved at nothing I could see. In a porch reflection, I caught a blink of orange plastic as we turned. A bowl or a pumpkin? Hard to tell. It didn't matter. We kept moving. The day had its own rules and we were going to follow them as closely as we could.